Hello, welcome everybody. You're tuned into Birmingham Cameras Live here. Thank you very much for joining us. We're very happy to have you all viewing here today. Now, this is the first Facebook Live video that we've done on our channel that has been run specifically and exclusively by ourselves. By that, what I mean is you will have seen Facebook Live videos on our channel before, but now it's different because this is being run by us. It's a full team effort. It's all the guys here in the store. So you're looking at myself, Brian Oak here. I am the host of this particular video, and behind the cameras you can't see them, but I can see them. We've got Dean, and we've got Pierce, and we've got Natasha. Thanks very much, guys, for all of your work. Now, when I say it's a full team effort, we are missing one member of the team here today. Probably the most important person, it is my dad, Brian Senior. Brian, Mr. Brian, as many people know him as. He unfortunately has not been able to come into the store for almost a year now with different COVID restrictions in action, and because his health is not fantastic, he unfortunately is not allowed in. So just before we go any further, I just want to say to him that we do miss him in here. Everyone sends their regards. We do have people contacting us on a daily basis. He knows this, we tell him anyway, but just while we're on here and while we're live, we'll say that to him. Now, okay, so for those of you who know us, you'll know who we are, where we are and what we do. But for anybody who doesn't know us, we're Birmingham Cameras. We're based in Dublin City Centre. We're 9 Burkey, so we are just a few doors from O'Connell Bridge in Dublin City Centre. We have a nice, recently refurbished new store that unfortunately people can't come into us in at the moment. But hopefully when people are allowed around the city again, as regards to when COVID restrictions are lifted, if anybody wants to come into us, we'd be very happy to see them. Talking about COVID restrictions, just before I introduce you to our guest, what I would like to do is just explain about how the store is functioning at the moment. So with COVID restrictions, we operate under whatever instructions, guidelines and regulations are out at the time. At the moment we're under level 5, which means that although we are classed as an essential retailer, the store is not open and functioning as it normally does. We are open and we are here to talk to you. You can contact us via email or by phone if you want to talk to us, or we can schedule a Zoom meeting for a demonstration if you wish. If you want to order from us, you can order from our website or over the phone, and we can have the equipment delivered to you. We have free delivery on items over €100. Any items or any packages of less than €100 value do have a courier charge on them. Items are dispatched via DPD. As I say, those orders can be done through our website or by calling us and paying over the phone. You can also do the same for click and collect orders. We have a click and collect service in offer, and you can call us or you can process the order on our website and we will get that out to you. Finally, the store is open for emergencies and appointments. So if you feel your visit to us is essential, or you want to call in to do a trade-in, if you want to call in to check the second-hand item for the condition of it, or if you want to even pay in cash, which is something we can still do, you can come to the store to do so, but we would ask that you make an appointment first so that we know that you're coming. And when you do come to the store, please understand that we cannot spend the amount of time with you having a conversation, a friendly conversation with you, doing a demonstration with you that we would normally do. This is unfortunately because we do want to stay operating within the restrictions and keep everybody healthy and safe. Now, you're watching this video and you're saying the video is being shot from your store, so is the video COVID compliant? Well, the answer is yes, it is. You will see when I introduce my guest in a moment or two that there is 2 meters between us, so you'll be happy to know that we are socially distant. The store is fully COVID compliant. All of the equipment we are using has been fully sanitized and wiped down. In fact, some of the equipment, I'm surprised, is still working because Dean has wiped it down so much that I'm surprised not water damaged. However, we are still going, and thankfully we are able to do things like this and bring them to you. Now, okay, so I'm going to talk just before we introduce Joe here, who is our guest, just about why we're doing this live stream. This live stream is being done to show you who's watching at home what we are capable of, as well as have you see and be able to communicate and talk to people who we think might be of interest to you. We are running this live stream ourselves. We are using our expertise and our equipment, and all of the equipment that is being used for this live stream we do sell, and we can sell, supply and train you on. If anybody does have any questions or want to contact us and know more about the live stream, how we did it or what equipment we used, please feel free to contact us via phone, via email, or via the contact us part of our website on birminghamcameras.ie, and we'll be more than happy to help you. Okay, so without further ado, going to introduce you to our guest. So our guest today for the first Facebook Live being run by Birmingham Cameras, is Joe Ladrigan, friend of the store. Some of you will know him as Joe.ir on Instagram. You may know his website, you may have seen him do some stuff before. Joe, hi, how are you? How are you keeping today?
Very good, Brian. Thank you very much for having me in store for the first Facebook Live. And again, a massive thank you to Dean, Pierce, Natasha and Brian Sr. For putting all this together and always welcoming us into the store.
You're welcome. We're happy to be doing it. So yeah, look, I think many people who are watching will know who you are, but for anybody who doesn't know you, can you just please give us a bit of a description and introduction to yourself?
Certainly. So for anyone who doesn't know me, which I'm sure there's quite a few of you out there, I am Joe Ladrigan. I'm a commercial videographer and photographer based in Dublin, Ireland, traveling all around the country, predominantly focusing on commercial photography and video for a wide range of clients. I'm fairly new enough to the industry, about 3.5 years into doing this full time, and that's kind of when I was first introduced to yourselves. So predominantly covering commercial photo and video over the last 2 years.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, I suppose first thing before we get into talking about equipment and type of work you do, I thought maybe we might just talk a bit about your background and about how you actually got into photography and then how it changed from a hobby to a business for you. So if you wouldn't mind maybe just talking about that for a moment as regards to how you've ended up where you are today.
Absolutely. So it's been a very strange journey and a very quick one at that. I think for you, you certainly know me, and for anyone who knows me as well, I didn't start off in this business or even trying to get into this business. 4 years ago, I was very much in business and finance. That's my background. So it was never photography or creativity.
You're doing yourself a bit of a disservice there, Joe. What was it you actually were? Business and finance, I believe. Was it a gold trader? Is that right?
Some gold stuff at one time, which again was a very different background from what I was coming into this. So having never had any experience in the creative background, people say to me, now, how did you get into this, or why did you get into this? I had no intention of actually making this a career. And that's one thing I always reiterate to people, is that I didn't plan this the way it went. It was very much by chance that I actually got into the business I'm doing now, and I'm actually running this. So to touch on my background briefly, it was business and finance and a chance encounter with a Canon camera, specifically the 5D original that my brother had borrowed, that I just picked up and really enjoyed using. Never had a clue that I would even enjoy photography or that I wanted to do it as any sort of job. And still, to an extent, I'm constantly learning. I still very much don't understand the technical aspects of the cameras. So for me, I had no clue this was going to lead to a business that it is now. So my background is very much just one of chance and luck. And the support I've had from yourselves and the people around me that have actually made this possible has what it's brought it to what it is today.
Yeah, look, I suppose from our point of view, we do see many different people coming into us, and their stories are all very different. But you're saying there is something that we did notice more and more over the last few years, which is that people have now made a profession out of photography, where maybe they didn't start out in their journey like that. I think the likes of Instagram, social media has kind of rejigged people's interest in photography, and some of them have actually realised that, the hobby that they feel is there for, their entertainment and something they don't take too seriously. You can actually make a profession out of it, and it can become your primary source of income, because if you like your hobby, you try to be good at it, and therefore that's what leads you to the situation like you're in today.
That's certainly something I'd say to anyone, and I mean, you guys have always fostered that. For myself coming in here or anyone coming in is, I didn't come in to become a professional photographer. I bought a camera, and it was a 5D Mark III originally from yourselves, to just take more personal photos. To get out and take pictures of my dogs, local parks I was walking in. But it was the likes of Instagram, the social media events, the events yourself and Canon were running that introduced me to people who'd done this full time. And then the opportunities of being able to take something, as you said, a hobby that you just enjoy, and turn it into a full-time job. And I think there's so many people, I'm meeting so many people, are getting messages online who are saying to me, well, how do I make that transition of something I love doing for fun into paid work? And the reality is there's so much opportunity out there through the likes of social media, or meeting yourselves and meeting teams that can actually give you the information that's needed to go from a hobbyist photographer or videographer into a full-time job using this kind of kit.
Yeah. You referenced just working with ourselves a couple of times there. We do have a relationship that goes back quite a while. I think the first time you did start dealing with us, it's a few years ago now. In fact, when you started dealing with us, we both had roughly the same length hair. And if you're watching at home there now, you can
Still
see how that has gone as regards to Joe has a bit more than I do now. So I don't know who ended up on the better side of that. But I remember the first time you bought stuff from us, it was a 5D Mark III camera, Canon 5D Mark III camera, and a few lenses, and you actually were talking to my sister Neve, and you gave her a very hard time as regards to the deal that you struck.
For that now.
But like, I think that's important to say to people, is that we are very happy to work with anybody, provided that they understand who we are and what we do. Like every store, I'm sure, in our industry, and lots of stores and lots of industries, we get contacted regularly by people who want us to give them free equipment because they have X amount of followers on Instagram, or they promise to do X amount of work for us or videos, whatever. That's not how we work. This live stream is a perfect example of we can do it ourselves if we want to with the equipment that we have, but we do like to work with people who understand what we are and can get our message across to people who aren't familiar with who we are, spread word about our store, what we sell, the services we offer, how we can help people along their journey in photography as well, be it as a hobby or as a profession. I suppose, like, when you talk about a relationship and you became a customer of ours, you became a customer of ours because you wanted to buy equipment. At the time you weren't a professional, but now you are. Like you did, when you started buying equipment from us, it was a Canon EOS 5D Mark III kit, I say, with a couple of L series lenses. And then you've had, now you can add into this kit, I remember most of it, 5D Mark IV, Canon 5D Mark IV, Canon EOS 1DX Mark III, and now you have a couple of Canon EOS R5 cameras, and you've also had an array of L series lenses and other lenses along the way. We have some of it up here on the desk here for people to see. Would you mind just talking us through some of the equipment there, Joe, and what you use, and maybe just some tips there for people using them, or how that lens came into your bag, why you felt there was a need for it, and what you use it for?
Absolutely, and just to touch on what you'd mentioned about the hair, that's the one question I actually got the most of this week was about my hair and not about the camera equipment. For anyone who's seen the promotional photo we used, that was actually an old photo of Brian from last year. But I'm beginning to think there's more Photoshop being done on that now since I'm looking at him. But no, to talk about the kit, it was very true when I came in here. I didn't come in initially with any intention of buying any specific piece of equipment. There was no need for a specific lens or camera because I wasn't doing it professionally. I was only doing it as a hobby, but yourselves had guided me so well in terms of the actual equipment that I needed that I went through all the way from, it was a 60 I had previously before coming in here. Then I bought the 5D.
We don't talk about pre-Birmingham cameras.
Pre-Birmingham cameras, but you guys have given me the 5D Mark IIIs, which I used for quite some time. Moving on then to the 5D Mark IVs, the 1DX Mark III last year. And then it was only last year, as this had come out, I made the switch fully to the Canon R5s. So I've gone through, I think this is my 8th and 9th Canon camera and 12th Canon L lens at this stage, so I've quite a bit of experience with all of this kit. I've used it from personal use, from going out and just shooting in the mountains, shooting for fun, all the way up to shooting, high-end commercial stills and video for clients. And my business now, I'm doing more commercial work than I am personal work, so I need equipment that is going to last for everything that I need. So at the moment, this is exactly what's in my kit bag. There is the 2 R5s and I have 5 L lenses at the moment. So predominantly now, having switched from a 1DX Mark III and an R5 together, what really made me make the change is that the size and weight of these kind of cameras that I'm using, a 1DX Mark III, although it's an amazing camera, and a camera that if you need that, it's more than you'd ever need for that kind of equipment or that kind of shooting, I didn't need the size and weight of a 1DX Mark III.
And just before you go further there, Joe, there are people watching it that will know that a 1DX Mark III is actually a more expensive camera than an R5. So that is a perfect example of two cameras in the same brand, in the Canon range. They have different jobs, but it's something that we do get asked regularly, which is the most expensive camera the best? And the answer is, well, it depends what you're looking for, because there's not a right or wrong answer to that. This is an example of how a camera that's actually not as expensive as the camera you already had does a different job, but a better job for you and what you're looking for to do.
Well, that's what I'd say, and that's so true, because the question I get asked the most out of everything that I'm doing is, what cameras would you recommend for me starting off? What cameras or lenses would you recommend that I buy? And the truth is, I wouldn't even recommend every single camera and lens that I own unless it's something you need for the shooting you're doing. So the need versus want, which is something that a lot of people, certainly myself, do all the time, is, do I need this or do I just want the newest thing that's out? And the reality is, it's finding the equipment that you need to make your clients' stories and shoots come together in that way. So in that respect, everything I have here is something that I actually use. It's not just a lens that I bought because it's new, or a camera that I bought that it's new. The fact that I even switched from a 1DX3 to 2R5s, as you said, it's a testament to how powerful these cameras actually are, and not necessarily needing a flagship camera to shoot the commercial work that I'm doing.
Yeah. So when you changed from the 1DX Mark III and got your second R5, your cameras are now, you're fully mirrorless in the cameras. So as regards to the cameras you use, they're both mirrorless cameras, so you don't have any DSLRs left at this stage. You've got 5L series lenses there, you've got 3 RF lenses, and you've got 2 EF lenses which you use on the Canon EOS R5s with the adapter. You have said to me that you do plan on getting all RF lenses soon, and you're, but obviously because you don't get stuff for free, you have to justify what the lenses are and when you can buy them, when you can afford them. But would you mind just talking to us there about how the RF lenses working with the R5s, how you found them compared to using the EF lenses with the adapter?
Absolutely.
And also maybe just about what you've kind of felt about the changing to fully mirrorless cameras, like how that's benefited you or how that's assisted you in your job.
Absolutely. So at the moment, to touch on the L lens, because that's a question I'm getting a lot, is how does an L lens adapt to an R5 with the adapter? Is it the same speed? Is the focusing the same? Because it's Canon native adapters and the L lenses are such good lenses, and these are such good cameras, any mirrorless camera, there's no difference in using an L lens with an R5 or an R6 or an R. And that's what I'd say to someone is you don't need to go out and buy all of the new kit, all of the new RF lenses to use on these mirrorless cameras. These are amazing lenses, like the 35 1.42 that I use, the 11 to 24, which is a big heavy lens that is probably not matched for a camera like the R5, but handles perfectly fine for any interior or architectural work that I would do. So they're the 2 L lenses that I would still use all of the time. And up until last week, the 70 to 200 2.8 Mark II, the original L one, was with the adapter such an amazingly sharp and fast lens that I would still use on the R5 without hesitation at all. So I've noticed no difference in using an L glass, an L lens that's even 4 or 5 years old on the newest mirrorless camera that's out. So anyone who's considering buying it and thinking, well, I need to get an RF lens with it, that's not the case. All of these lenses are going to work perfectly fine with this kit. So for someone out there thinking about the upgrade, you don't have to upgrade everything you have at once. The great thing about any of the Canon systems is they're so interchangeable between each other that you can use all your old glass and get amazing results with this. But moving on to the RF lenses that I have decided to switch over to, the reason I really wanted to try these out was, the reason I got the RF or the R5 was mainly for the stabilization that I was seeing in this camera. So to be able to put the stabilization of these lenses with the in-body stabilization of an R5, it's giving me so much opportunity to create video pieces for clients that I was never able to do before. Things that I was using a gimbal for. Like I was using my Mark IV with 24 to 70s, 16 to 35s, and getting amazing results on gimbals and a lot of shots. And these are perfectly capable cameras. But the flexibility that this kit has given me to do handheld shooting, like to get shots that I would have needed bigger setups, I was using sliders for, interior shots that I was again using a gimbal. Now I'm actually getting the same shots handheld. So that was the main appeal for me to switch to the 24 to 70 RF lens, the 15 to 35 RF, and then the 70 to 200. So I was perfectly happy with all my L lenses, but I really wanted to test out the capabilities of these combined, and I have not been disappointed.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, that's great to hear that no matter which lens you're using, be it the RF or the EF lens, that you're very happy with the results, but that really the RF lenses are what you want to go with, if at all possible. What we actually do now, Joe, is you shot a video with the Canon R5, and I think it actually was what made your decision to change fully mirrorless was when you actually saw it. It's for one of your commercial clients. It was also Canon do commission you at times to do some work for you, and you did actually provide a very similar video to Canon for what people are about to see. Just before we actually just show the video, I will remind everybody that we will have a questions and answers at the end of this session. So if anybody has any questions or would like to put questions into the comments, please do so. Put it in the comments. We will come to it at the end. We won't answer the questions as they come in. We will answer all the questions at the end. Even if you feel your question has been answered as we go on through the piece, we will still ask your question just in case Joe wants to answer any more of it. Please, the questions are just for Joe as regards to, because he's our guest here today. Anything that is a general question, just address it to the store via email or via phone after the stream is over. So okay, I think what we'll do is we'll show the video now. This is a video shot by Joe on a Canon EOS R5 as regards to for a commercial client. So some of you may have seen this before, but I think it's a really good idea to show it again, to show what the R5 is capable of. And when the video has played, we'll talk to Joe more about it. Now, with a bit of luck, Dean has done his job properly there, and you've just watched the video that Joe shot that was commissioned by Canon and by for a very nice whiskey company. In fact, those of you who know me will know that I am a fan of whiskey, and I have tasted that particular drink that's in that video, and it is very, very nice. So I'm sure you've tasted a bit of it yourself there, Joe, after doing that job for them. Now, look, when I first saw that video and you sent it in to us, the first thing I thought was, wow, it's absolutely brilliant. Now, I know your work. I've seen stuff you've done for us. I've seen stuff you've done for Canon. I've seen stuff you've done for other companies. So when I say wow, like, you know, it generally means it's something that I wasn't expecting. And that's not saying I didn't expect it to be good, but it's how good it actually was. And I really wasn't made aware before I saw that video of how good like the camera actually is and what you can get out of it. It's a brilliant video, and I think it's a perfect video to demonstrate what actually the capabilities of a camera like the Canon EOS R5 is. As regards to the video itself though, rather than the equipment, would you mind talking to us a bit about there how that video went from an idea to the finished product, as regards to, you know, did the client that you did it for, the commercial client, did they come to you with an idea? Was that all your idea? How did you go about it? How long did it take to put together? Just to give us an idea of like how a 2.5 minute video actually comes to being that what it is.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, first of all, for the plaudits on that. I'll be honest and say I was as impressed with the quality of what I was seeing from the cameras the first time I started using it. And again, one thing I must say is that I've shot with so many cameras, and I've showed so many clients on sets, you know, the back of a screen of a camera, or here's the footage I'm getting on a shoot. I've never got more wows and this is amazing, or incredible reactions to just the back of the camera. The 4K 120 I've been showing clients, even just the quality of the video that I'm capturing handheld. So I was as equally impressed when I first started seeing the results from this camera. So for that particular video, what I must stress to anyone is I'm not shooting, TV or production level qualities or Hollywood type film, sets. That's not what I work on. What I work on for clients is very much something that I need to be able to bring this kit in to a set, shoot a lot of it myself or with people that I work with, but I'm not going in and shooting a big setup. I didn't have lighting for anything like that. That was very much myself and a friend with a gimbal and a camera and a lens for the most part. Now, we shot some of the behind the scenes on the 1DX Mark III, but the reality was that when I was on shoot that day, I was picking this camera up before the 1DX Mark III. For any shot that I wanted, I was thinking, well, how am I going to use the R5 for it? Knowing that the R5 had to be in the shots, I wanted to shoot as much as possible on this camera and these lenses. So on a shoot like that, we went down to shoot some commercial photography and videography for Powerscourt Distillery. And we were on that location thinking, well, this is a perfect location to test out these cameras, to test some of the weather sealing, to test that was going to hold up in strong lighting. And what I wanted to show off with it was the video capabilities that I could capture behind the scenes with the camera, showing how a commercial shoot was going to be done, but to really show off the power of a camera and what you could get with a limited amount of equipment. A lot of people would look at a video like that and think, well, what kind of setup do we need? Do we need, big gimbal setups, cranes? Are we using anything that's going to require big moving parts? And the reality is no, because I don't work with a lot of parts like that. I'm very much a photographer and videographer who wants kit that's going to give me flexibility on a shoot. So if I have to lug in tripods and big heavy pieces of gear, it's just not going to work for me. So for something like that, we went down with the intention of doing commercial work for the client. And Canon had commissioned me to do a piece on the camera just to show off, with no limitations of shoot what you want to shoot with it, but it's not has to go in any direction. And how do you want to use the gear? So everything we shot with that, it wasn't pre-planned,
Just what you're saying about Canon commissioning you did give them a slightly different version of the video
Yes,
to what we just showed there, because the video you gave Canon didn't actually have the alcohol or the whiskey in it. It had the Canon R5 in it instead. So it was pretty much the same video that you gave Canon as regards to what people have seen and just watched, but it didn't have the whiskey in it. It had the actual R5 in there.
That's it. So yeah, we just took out the commercial shots.
Exactly,
of Powerscourt. So, but aside from that, we had shot in the exact same way. There was no change in setup, and that went to show me how easy it was to take. A lot of those shots were handheld, the close-up shots, that we could just swap out shots again to change out the shots of the bottles of whiskey, to use the product placement of the camera. And I could just shoot this handheld with a lens without having to rechange anything, change models, change subjects. So that to me showed me the flexibility on a day like that all I needed was this setup here, probably only 2 lenses we brought and 1 R5. So the planning of that was very little actual day-to-day planning. We went down, and if the weather was good, we were going to shoot around it. We probably shot 3 or 4 different locations. So the planning that goes into a video like that, once you get the locations and once you know the locations you need to be in, I want equipment that's not going to fail me on a shoot. So a lot of people will ask, how much planning goes into setting up these shots? And on a shoot like that, once I know the gear is not going to fail me, it's just knowing the locations that I need to be in and the peace of mind that that equipment is not going to let me down. That frees up me to be as creative as possible as I want to be on a shoot, and that's invaluable to me or anyone doing this full time, is to have peace of mind with this kit. So first and foremost, the main reason I'd made the switch is that I don't have to think or worry about this gear on a client shoot. And that to me it's worth so much that I can spend my time being as creative as possible with this equipment. And the limitations are only on my own creativity, not on the gear anymore.
Well, that's, again, it's just amazing to hear stuff like that about, the kit. I did actually have another question down for you, which was, how did mirrorless help you get this video? I think you've answered that in what you've said there, but I think, again, what you've answered more so in just how did mirrorless help with this video is, how has mirrorless helped you in your job and in your profession, full stop? Because what I've taken out of what you've just been saying there is that whether you're going to do a photo or a video, you don't need to empty out your bag now or say, well, I'm going to do photos today, so I need to bring this or that, or else I'm going to do video, so I need to bring a different camera, a different lens. What you're saying is your bag is your bag now, and it's just, you don't have to think about what you're actually going to be shooting. It's just a case of, I know this is going to do the job for me. And I think that's the best endorsement that any equipment can get.
I think we've all had that. Like, anyone I've spoken to, anyone who does this full time will tell you how many times I've gone on a set with a bag full of equipment, 6 or 7 lenses I've carried up a mountain, 2 or 3 bodies, all this kit, thinking maybe I'm going to use this. Maybe I'm going to pack everything I own in the hope that I use that one lens on a shoot. And the reality is that when you do this more and more, you don't have the luxury of bringing every piece of kit with you. And when you bring it, you start realizing you're actually picking up and reaching for the same piece of gear again and again. So when I look at this now, I'm thinking, I don't need to take all of this on a set. I could take an R5 and a 24-70, and that would do me for 90% of the photo and video work that I need for a client. Like the fact that I can take this and shoot billboard quality stills images for a commercial client, and also shoot 4K 120 or possibly B-cam for like TV type production work if you needed to on a camera like this, is incredible. And that's not to take away from any of the other gear that I've used, because in their own right they're all amazing pieces of gear, but this has condensed my kit bag.
I think you've made people with physiques like me out there happy, because it means you don't have to have the wrestler type physique that my sons say that you have to be able to carry 7 or 8 lenses and 2 cameras up a mountain now to be able to do these shots that a smaller kit bag, a lighter kit bag, which is what mirrorless does offer, allows you to get the work that you've done. Sorry Joel, just remind people again, just get the questions into the comments there as regards to when we do get onto it. It will be at the end, questions and answers section. If anybody has any questions, I say even if you think they've been answered, put them in, put your name there, put your question in for Joe. We will come to them all at the end, and we will ask Joe all of the questions that do come in. Now, sorry to interrupt you there, Joe, as regards that. We might move on to photography now, if that's okay. We were talking about videography there, and your video and the video that you shot there, but I think like you did start off as a photographer that didn't do any video whatsoever, and again, like we have known you through the change into kind of a multimedia type person, and that offers photography, videography, hybrid shooter rather than just being a photographer. But like photography is how you did get into where the position you are in now, and like that came about because photography, as we've mentioned earlier on, photography was actually your hobby. How did you how did photography become a hobby for you? Like where did this actually start? Like where we know where you are now on the journey, but where did it actually start? Like how did you get into it?
Honestly, it's a question I get asked again and again, and it hasn't changed. I still catch myself at how did I get into this and be able to make it a career? Because this didn't start off for me as something that I always wanted to do. I didn't pick up a camera and go, I want to do this for a career. I think most people probably don't. And I didn't grow up with a family that were into photography or that were photographers. So the first time I picked up a camera, it was very much the amazement of being able to capture something that I wasn't able to see with my eye. That was for me the amazement of walking around streets in Dublin or places that I'd been before and seeing it from a different perspective. So that's what got me into the excitement of photography, but there was no plan to do it as a job to get paid for it. So I didn't realize that picking up a Canon 5D was going to change my entire life in terms of my career. I think had I known that pressure, what was coming with it, I probably wouldn't have even started using it. So I started off taking simple photos. There was no obligation to catch anything particular. It wasn't even the outdoors. It was just anything that I could see, thousands and thousands of those photos. So when I started doing that and I started realizing I enjoyed it, then I started looking into, well, there's so much kit out there. There's so much cameras, there's so much lenses. And that's where yourselves advised me in a certain way of going, well, maybe use this, the Canon 5D Mark IIIs. And there was never a pressure to buy anything specifically, but that's when the photography started becoming more serious for me, that I realized I could actually capture professional quality images on the cameras that I owned. Like I didn't need to own the best camera, the newest camera, the most expensive lens. I just had to learn how to make use of what I had. So that's how the transition within like 2 years had come from Instagram photography that I was just taking for fun into people actually asking me to come along and commission me to shoot for that kind of work. So it was very much a quick process, but as you said, the hybrid shooting has been something that anyone who's doing this as a business, certainly as a photographer over the last few years, has probably been asked this question of, can you shoot video? Your clients on set are asking you, well, do you capture video? And if you don't, do you know someone who can? Because it's gone from just you needing stills to social media, Instagram stories, behind the scenes. That is as important or more important now to clients to be able to capture. So if you aren't able to do that, or you don't have the equipment to do that, I believe, you're doing yourself a disservice for the business. You need to be able to offer those things. So you've kind of been forced into having to be more multimedia adaptable. And it's not a bad thing because it allows us to upskill, probably something we wouldn't have done ourselves.
You mentioned Instagram there and social media, things like that. You have a very active social media page.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yes. A lot of followers on there. But what you generally put up on your Instagram is your your hobby rather than your commercial stuff. You don't put too much of
lot
your
of the time,
commercial
yes,
stuff
yeah.
up there. What we're actually going to do now is we're going to bring up a slideshow for people, and we're just going to have you actually talk us through some of the photos that you've taken. Now, these photos are actually commercial photos. Most of them are, not all of them, most of them are for a commercial client. But there will be a resemblance to some stuff that goes on your personal page as regards to for your actual hobby. So we're going to bring a slideshow up there now in a moment. Again, just a reminder about the questions. If anybody wants to get them in, we'll be coming to the questions and answers section soon. So any questions that are in before we start that will be put to Joe. So we're going to go to the slideshow there now. On screen. Now, we've got the first photo up on screen there, Joe. So would you mind just telling us a bit about this and what that photo is, where it was taken, what you used?
Yeah, so this one, again, as people have probably noticed in most of these photos, and something I do need to preface, a lot of the client shooting I do or commercial shoots are not staged or particularly set up. You know, if we need to do that, we'll do a staged photo, but most of what I'm shooting is on location. So this one actually I was on a commercial shoot. This was Ticknock, up at Three Rock at Ticknock in the Dublin Mountains, just overlooking the city there. And this wasn't set up, I didn't shoot this. It's not a particularly amazing shot or anything, but what amazed me most about capturing the shot was I was facing the other direction. And I just seen these kids fly down on the bike. Now I had the R5 and the 70 to 200, the RF version on. This was the first day I had the R5. I'd taken it out to Ticknock. I might have even borrowed it from yourselves in the store. Canon had given me one to try. And what amazed me most was I had turned around. It was still figuring out the settings on the camera, and said, I'll just try capture and snap a shot as these kids were flying down. I just turned around and shot with it. And what amazed me more looking back on it, because I didn't have time to frame anything really, was that it just caught focus straight away on the camera and lens. Didn't struggle for even a second. Now again, I'm someone who, I'm not very technically proficient with equipment. Like I am not the most proficient videographer or photographer in terms of technical specs on cameras. So I want something that's going to capture for me things that I need to shoot without having to worry about how it's going to do it. And that for me was just, it kind of just summed up that photo.
That's a perfect example.
Exactly, there was no worry about the equipment.
We'll move on to the next photo there. So a different type of photo, again, outdoors. Again, where's this? How'd you take it? What did you use?
Again, it was actually the same day, so I was out doing some commercial photography for an outdoors client of mine, where we travel around the country capturing a lot of outdoors locations and scenes for them. And as this kind of shows, it went from the same kind of day of shooting someone biking in the middle of the day to shooting direct sunlight into this shot. This was actually extremely dark, and I was again just handheld, just trying to capture. That was just this little pine cone sitting there in the forest, and that was on the 15 to 35 and the R5. And again, for me, it was just the versatility of that camera and lens that I was able to just swap that out and take a shot like that. Now,
that's a photographer's nightmare, having to shoot directly into the sun.
But this
and look at how well that has actually coped with that.
And the reality of what we're doing is you need to be adaptable on these sets, because I didn't have time to bring lighting up a mountain. I wasn't going to set up a shot like that for a pine cone. So I wanted something that I didn't have to worry about, that I could take out of a bag and it would just do its job.
Now, next photo, bit different to the previous two.
Yeah.
So
for me, it's probably the only photo I've actually used a tripod on in a long time, and this was actually just a personal shot. I was actually down swimming, as I'm doing all the time at the moment. So this is before I went down for a morning swim. It was actually somewhere out in Donabate, and people who know the area will know that this is a very dark, tiny little cave. And I was just playing around, waiting before we get in the water, and said I'll just take out the, again, 15 to 35 and the R5. Set up. I didn't have any plan to get this shot. I didn't go down to do this shot. I was in the area just snapping away, and this just showed me that I didn't need to plan anything. I just put it on a tripod. It was maybe a 3-second exposure, and I was able to pull back. This was actually extremely dark in it, and it's probably clearer on the screen, but the quality I was getting across the whole photo, even in a pitch black scenario, was perfect.
Well, if we take equipment out for a moment, just talk about the actual photo. It's on our doorstep, okay.
Yeah.
With COVID restrictions, 5 kilometres in, may not be on everybody's doorstep. But this is Dublin, County Dublin, Donabate, and it just goes to show what is there, and outdoors, close to us, for people to go and experience it. You don't have to be anywhere exotic to get photos like what we're showing here.
To anyone, is that a lot of the shots I'm doing or scenes I'm doing for clients, they're asking me to scout locations that I know, that are close to home. So you don't need to travel around the world to get good quality footage or content with any equipment. So I'd say to anyone this year more than ever is use the locations that are on your doorstep.
Now, next photo, nice autumnal scene. Well, I hope
Yes.
it's autumnal because otherwise the colours are a bit...
It's Photoshop, isn't it? This again was we do a lot of outdoor forestry shooting for commercial clients, and this wasn't staged. This was just simply people having a picnic. Now we did ask them, can we use them in the photo? Do you mind us taking a shot? But this scene was actually extremely misty and moody when we were on the shoot. So the colors were amazing and vibrant, and you want to capture as much of that as possible through the cameras. And one thing I've always noticed, and I think anyone doing this will say the same, sometimes the cameras don't usually represent what you're seeing with your eye. And a lot of the times it looks better in person than it does on the cameras. And that's something I've noticed over the years. So the fact that I can capture the same mood and scene and colors that I was seeing, that's what I want. Something, there's no fuss. This was handheld in a car park as I got out of the car, a minute after getting out of the car. There was no planning to this at all.
And again, the image speaks for itself there. I say handheld, not planned, nothing there, just not quite point and shoot, but you know, certainly nothing planned and nothing staged.
Well, I have a lot of friends who are extremely talented landscape photographers who go out and spend the time setting up scenes and shots, and that's amazing if you have the time to do that. And I love seeing those kind of images. But a lot of the work that I do, including this next one, you have to just adapt to where you are. Like, I can't set up scenes like this for clients. We don't have the luxury of taking someone out and putting them in a scene all the time. And if you do, that's fine. But a lot of the work is adapting to the environment that we're in. So a lot of these shots, again, I'm walking around with a 70-200 on the R5, and I need to be, if I see something, be able to just pick it up and take the shot. So it was photo and video I've shot for all of these. So I have equivalent video clips, again, handheld, that I can switch between and go, okay, I've got the still, and I've also got a beautiful video clip of that handheld with a 70-200 and an R5. So that for me just shows me that I can walk around without planning or seeing anything, and I'm going to come away with images that my clients are going to be happy with.
Okay, going to go on to the next one here now. Either very early in the morning or a bit late at night, either dusk or dawn. A nice photo there. Again, outdoors, common theme with the photos you're taking, but slightly different again in fact that there's a car in it rather than people or just scenery. So again, where was this? What was it shot with?
So this is somewhere in the Midlands, I believe. I was on a commercial shoot again with the client. We were on the way into that.
Keeping your location top secret in case anybody else wants to go in there.
Or just the fact that I don't even remember where most of them are, to be honest. But this was actually just on the way into the car park, and myself and Connor, a friend of mine who we were working on the job together, we're both driving in thinking this is an amazing scene. So we just said, look, if we drive the car back down through the fog and see if we can get a shot. I've seen so many of these kind of moody shots, but again, you can't plan for that weather. You can look up as much charts as you want, but chances are you just show up and it happens.
Slight difference with this shot there, what you've just said, although you can't plan for that weather, that lighting, that is stage is probably an exaggeration, but you were driving that car, you saw that scene and said that would look nice with a car and headlights. So a little bit different to what we've just seen previously.
Exactly it. And again, we were there thinking we can capture this as we go along. I threw on a 35, stepped out of the car and got that shot. We're just with the 35. And we just had the car drive up and down once or twice, and we're just able to get it, middle of the morning. We were half awake even trying to stage the shot,
You're going to have to stop saying, Joe, that you just put on the lens and take the photo, because all of the professional photographers are out there are going to say, this guy is going to think that we're making this job sound like there's nothing to it whatsoever.
But it's something I always need to preface with people that I don't have a lot of time on a lot of shoots to do a lot of setups. And I want people to know that as well, that, I have friends who really know the ins and outs of all their gear, but I wouldn't be someone who's extremely technically proficient at what I'm doing. So having peace of mind that I can capture, and again, not to take away any expertise of what people do, but I want to be someone who can pick up a piece of equipment and worry about what I need to capture and the story I need to tell, and not have to worry too much about the settings on it.
So this photo we're looking at here now is very similar to one earlier on with the people sitting at the bench. Is this the same day or a different day? Or
this is a different day again, because we're doing a lot of forestry stuff around that time of the year. A lot of it looks very similar, but different forest, different location. I was shooting actually dogs running through the trees on the other side, and I just turned and seen this one person walking through, and that was shot on the 15-35 and the R5. And it really just shows the scale and the colours that were around. So I was going from just shooting a mix of different, be it close-ups of trees to actually people in the scenes. And that's just a walk-around lens, like a 15-35 on the R5, was giving me a variety of everything I needed.
Next photo now. Again, I'm going to tell you this is my favourite. I don't even know what number 9 and number 10 are, but this will be my favourite, because we've got the nice Fair Cullen 14-year-old whiskey in there. A very nice tipple, even if I do say so myself. But much more important, a fantastic shot. Like, again, outdoors. but a product shot rather than no specific subject in there, and a different location. So I'm going to assume, if this is fair, Cullen, this is in Powerscourt, is that correct?
It is, yeah. And a lot of the time what we do with the products that we're given is the client would ask us to take the product, be it, a camera bag, a piece of clothing, or a product like a bottle of whiskey, and put it into the environment. This is not a setup shot where you can light it or things like that. I'm using the environment we're in at the time. So we've done similar shots, up mountains, we've done shots, other sides of the country, but you're just using the location you're in. So I don't want to have to think about setting it up or staging it. But again, I think I had the camera balanced on a rock just beside there.
Okay.
Using the R5 there, and it was the same day we shot the video.
And the question for you there, you're saying the camera's on a rock. What's the whiskey on? How is that actually being held up? Or
very, very lightly balanced in the middle of that rock. So anyone who likes bottles of whiskey would be very nervous watching us do that. I think we had someone just behind the rock ready to catch it if it fell. But that's a lot of the work we're doing, is you're doing it on the fly in locations that you don't have. Like, I don't have time to place that anywhere. There's no flat rocks, So we're making use of that as we're walking around.
Now, okay, next photo. Again, different again. Landscape, but not landscape as most people would know it. What is this? Why did you shoot this? And what did you shoot it with?
This was driving through Sally Gap in the Dublin Mountains, and simply on the way from Powerscourt to, I think it was Loch Tay, to get the last bit of the video on that same day. That was out of the side of the window of the car. We pulled over, took out the 7200 was on the car, on the seat beside me with the R5. Simply just rolled down the window, took 2 shots. That was it. There was no planning that went into that. It was just side of the road shooting, which in a lot of environmental and outdoor work, you don't know when you're going to see it. And for a lot of the work I'm doing, is you're putting yourself in the locations and you're hoping that some of it's going to come together. And this is an example for me of a lot of the times and places I'm in that you just don't know when or what you're going to need. So there was no planning that went into that shot.
Now, last one of the slideshow.
Yes.
Just on to the last image here now. So, outdoors. I don't think we've had anything other than outdoors, but that's the common theme. No, that's what you do, and that's what gets your best results. Really, again, what is this? Where was it taken?
So this one is actually probably the best image out of the lot for me. But that's actually my mother in the photo, and we had the chance last year to go and work on some shoots together where I was able to bring her along because of restrictions and everything going on. We can't bring teams in anymore. So I travel a lot alone on a lot of shoots, and I travel around the country to these locations to capture this. So again, we're walking around, and the main theme of a lot of the shoots I'm doing is to capture people in a natural environment and the outdoors. So this for me is actually, I just love the fact that I can walk around. My mother's on the shoot with me and we can just capture stuff as we see it. I just said to her, just walk ahead. There was no planning involved. We didn't know that light was going to come through. Again, shooting into direct sunlight. I just love how it actually held up for me. Shooting it handheld, I think I took 3 or 4 of those shots and they're all the exact same. And I'm extremely happy with how they turned out, because for me, it's just capturing a moment that I couldn't have planned previously. So,
very good. Nice to finish up there with a photo of your mother being the model. So thank you very much, Joe's mum, for
she's
being
delighted
our model.
about that. Yeah, she doesn't get paid for that, by the way, so I'm not.
So now, so thank Joe. Those photos are brilliant. Thank you so much for allowing us to share them with the people who are watching us here today. As we were talking about through it, a common theme is outdoors. So all of them are outdoors. Say most of them are commercial. There's a couple of your personal shots in there, but even the commercial ones are on the style of what you generally like to shoot for your hobby. One thing you kept on saying over and over again is that there was very little preparation. I'd say to you that's not quite right, because your preparation is knowing where to go and like what time of the day the light is going to be like that, what time of the day is best to get the mood that you're trying to create, or knowing where maybe a secret location is, and like joking aside, somewhere that looks maybe exotic even though it's in Ireland, because plenty of those, if you showed me them, I would not say without knowing you that they were definitely in Ireland, because they do look like they're a bit more exotic. And I would also say that when you're saying that, there's very little preparation involved, for example, a wedding photographer would have to put a lot of preparation in, because they need to know the location as well. They need to know what the lighting situation is going to be, the surroundings, if it's a hotel or a castle, what the grounds are like. But they also have to plan their shots, for example, bride and groom, family, etc. Whereas with you are a bit luckier in that way, in that you can work with nature and its surroundings, and you can work with what's there and say, okay, I know when I go there, I'm going to like the light, because even if it's misty, I can bring that into a mood. If it's, if it's sunny, I can bring that into the mood as well. But there'll be something going on there. And if there's not, I can just, as some of the photos had no subject whatsoever, it was just being a bit creative with a landscape shot, or like just thinking outside the box a little bit.
And it's so true.
That's where your actual work is, though. So as I say, like saying there's no work there is work, it's not just point and shoot.
Yeah.
You've done that work before you're even there. You're there already.
I think that's
taking the photo is the last step.
We do forget that. I know I forget that, and it's easy because I've spoken to so many wedding photographer friends of mine, or maybe more commercial studio shooters, and when I look at the work and prep that they put into setting up the shots and the scenes, I'm always in awe and thinking, well, I couldn't even do that. I wouldn't even know how to do that. So for what I'd say to anyone is, if they're looking to get into this and how they can shoot for brand or commercial, put in the work of getting to know the locations that you can get to. You don't need to travel across the world to do these shoots. I've had big commercial clients ask me to shoot campaign imagery and video on my doorstep. So knowing where you can go and where you can access that without having to worry about being in Bali or being in these amazing countries, you don't need to. And realistically now, it's going to be quite some time before we can get to some of these places. So as you said, the prep really is knowing the limits of your gear and the locations that you can actually access. So in that respect, we can all actually do this work.
We do have to remind people that it is great to get out and explore, but please stay within your 5 kilometre limit until the level 5 restrictions are lifted, because we don't want to be getting in trouble by saying the Birmingham cameras live stream encouraged us to go outside of our 5K.
But what this amazed me is that a lot of the shots I'm getting on the beach stuff is on my doorstep, and some of the mornings I've got incredible imagery just where I would swim down the road. So I think more than ever we've realized that we don't need to go outside these big distances. And I said stay within the 5K and just practice with the equipment you have. So that can definitely be done.
Okay, right. So thank you very much, Joe. Last call now for any questions that people would like to ask. We do have a few in already. Thank you very much. If anybody would like to get them into the comment section, put them in there, because we are going to move on to the questions section in a moment. And once we do get onto them there, we won't be in a position to take any more. Before we do go on to the questions section, though, Joe, just going to bring up your information here on the screen there. It'll be your Instagram handle for people to find you. But maybe just before we do move on to the questions, we might finish up the part of chatting to you by you just telling people just where they can find more information about you, or what you can do for them, or if they contact you, what you can do with them.
Perfect. Well, so for anyone looking to get more of my information in terms of booking me for photo work or video, or to just check out my work, joe.ire is my Instagram handle. That's predominantly what I use, or at least this year I'll be looking to upload more of the commercial work that I actually do. And in that respect, joeladrigan.com is where I'll be hosting, or where I host my client work. So for anyone looking to look at more commercial imagery, it's something I will be showing off more this year around the R5s and the work that I've been capturing with that, and also trickling out a lot of commercial video content we would have shot around these cameras, just so we can actually show more of what's been done behind the scenes. So I'll be sharing more of that now this year. So joe.ire is where I'll predominantly share this kind of work that I've been shooting, along with more personal work.
Thank you for that, Joe. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice a wardrobe change. That is because one of the first questions that we actually got in was, we saw some photos of Brian there during the week with a COVID sign coloured jumper on. Was that jumper actually real, or was there some Photoshop done by the guys there? Because surely anybody can't have a jumper that colour. Well, here you go, guys. The proof is here. It's in front of you. This is a live stream, live TV. It definitely is a fashion statement rather than a Photoshop mistake. So here you go. The jumper is real. Now,
I can confirm it's that colour in real life. Yeah.
Okay, Joe, we have a few questions here. So we'll just run through them in the order they came in, and we might just get your thoughts on them and your answers to them. So the first question has come in from Chris McCarthy. Now, Chris is a regular customer of the store. So hi, Chris, how are you? Thanks for watching. So we have, hi, Joe, what was the video settings for your 4K 120, please?
The video settings for the 4K 120.
Nice, easy one to start off with there.
I'm trying to remember what we even shot that in. In terms of actual video settings, I try to think, in terms of ISO, we went through probably from 200-300 all the way up to 7,000 or 8,000 on the last shot running, or one of the last shots where we were running through the trees. So that amazed me that I could actually handle in terms of the high ISO. Aside from that, we're probably shooting in lower apertures of around, I'm trying to remember because it was a varying amount of locations, but between definitely f2.8 I've used for a lot of those shots, which I was just so grateful for the autofocus being able to handle on that camera, that I could shoot at such a wide open aperture and move around with, you know, tapping the back of the screen for the focus, moving on a gimbal or handheld, and not have to worry about that at all. So I think I shot 4K 120 for that whole video on the R5, with a variety of, going between the wide open apertures and very high ISOs. So to me, even looking at that on a large screen when I was editing, that video quality held up across the whole day, and there was hardly any shots or shots that I look back on and said are unusable. Everything to me was usable in that.
Okay.
Hope that answers the question.
Just I'm going to add into that there from what Chris put in. Anybody who is familiar with the Canon EOS R5 and is looking for it specifically for video, there was at times mentions of the camera overheating. Now, we have never experienced that here, what I've seen. How did you find that actually, just as regards to that?
So that's something that I get asked a lot, and it's something that I noticed at the beginning, you know, when I was even looking at reviews of this camera, people mentioned the overheating, it's not going to work, or, you know, it's not going to let you shoot video. And I would say to anyone, if you're someone who needs to shoot a whole commercial or a day in 4K 120, you're probably not getting an R5 to shoot a whole cinema shot with an R5. Knowing the limitations of the camera, and knowing you've got about, I think it's 12 or 15 minutes with the new firmware upgrade of shooting the likes of, I done a test the other day of 4K 120 continuous for that amount of time. I've experienced it was 15 commercial shoots I've done for video with this now. It's overheated on me 2 times. And that was never a problem, because I was able to get those shots out of the way at the beginning, the 4K 120 shots I needed, and let the camera cool down and shoot. This has not been an issue for me. And I would honestly say, if someone asked me if this was causing me trouble on a set, I would mention that. But this, for me, knowing the limitations of the camera, this has never stopped me on a shoot once with the overheating.
And again, just to say as well, like, the Canon EOS R5 is not the only camera that gets warm when it's shooting 4K video. That is a phenomenon of the way mirrorless cameras are designed and shooting video. Thanks for that question, Chris. I hope we answered okay for you. The next question is from Ted Smith, and it's, was the first bit a bit of drone footage? That is the video, I'm sure, referring to the video on Periscope.
Yeah, now, that was actually a tripod I was using at the time. No, it was a drone shot coming in over Periscope. So I'd like to mix a lot of the shots we're doing, especially in the outdoors, because just to show the scale of that, to bring people into it, is mixing the likes of a drone video into this. And I think they mix seamlessly together for all these locations we're using. Yeah, I do use drone for a lot of that as well.
Okay, thank you for that question there, Ted. And moving on to the next question from Matt Sands. Hi Joe, great work. Have you any experience of using the R6? If so, how would you rate it? Price difference would allow me to buy a new lens. And that is something, again, it kind of goes back to something we touched on much earlier on in the conversation about the price difference between cameras, and going for the most expensive camera isn't always the most sensible decision. Have you used the R6 much?
I actually haven't used the R6 for commercial work. I have used, I've played around with the settings on it, and I've shot 1 or 2 stills on it, for 1 or 2 days on stills on it. But in terms of what it offers on it, as I would say to someone, most people don't need 8K, right? Most people don't need 4K 120. It's knowing the limitations. If you can get an R6 and a new lens, I would say to someone, go for that. Get the full setup that you need. Instead of going out and saying, well, I'm going to buy the top camera, but I can't get the lens to go with it, I would rate the R6 just as highly for anyone getting into it.
I think you're applying for a job in here, Joe, because that's advice that we give people regularly. But it is a genuine answer. It's a case of, the way we would simplify it for people at times is, if you're asking, do you need the more expensive camera? You probably don't, because if you do need it, you won't be asking that question and say, I need it because it has X and Y. And the R6 is a brilliant camera.
But the R6 for me would do anything that I would need on a shoot. So I'd certainly say to someone, unless you need those extra setups or that spec, then go for an R6. You will not be disappointed with any of the kit. That goes from any of the 5D series and any of the L lenses, because they will do more than what you need. The limitations is around our creativity, not the gear at this stage.
So there you go, Matt. I hope that answers your question. Now, next one is from Gaetano Tenuto. Gaetano, hi, how are you? Good to have you watching, and thanks for your question. It's, Joe, you have mentioned mainly zoom lenses so far. Would you prefer them over primes?
It's a good question, and it's something that I've only really had the choice or the chance for myself to use the 35 1.4 Mark II, and actually I use the 85 1.4. A friend of mine, a colleague, Abe, uses, and I borrowed that quite a few times. I'm massively impressed with the prime lenses when I do get to use them. a lot of the work I do, the versatility of a zoom lens for me makes sense. If I had to pick any two lenses, if I could only pick two out of this entire kit that I had to stick with, it would be a 24-70 and the 35 1.4.
Okay.
And the prime lenses for me, if you need that sharpness, like, you know, for like portraits or even commercial work, you know, product work, a prime lens, you're not going to be disappointed. The quality of a prime lens is to me probably going to be sharper than most any zoom lens you're going to use. But for what I do, it's the versatility of having a zoom makes more sense for my client needs. So again, it's just down to personal preference of what I need to shoot, but you're not going to be disappointed with the prime lens over any zoom lens.
Okay, thank you, Gaetano, for the question.
Thank you.
Now, just a couple more questions there to go. We actually have 3 or 4 more, actually. So we have a question from Noel Ryan. Thank you for your question, Noel. It's, Joe, did you find much of a difference between the EOS R and the R5?
So interestingly enough, when the R came out, was it 3 years ago now? Maybe a little bit more, around that, or 2 years ago. I remember taking the R, it was yourself or Canon had loaned me the R, and we took it to the Dolomites for a week and shot over there. And the main difference I noticed, because that was my first foray into the mirrorless cameras at that point, was the electronic viewfinder. That was for something for me that I couldn't get used to. Coming from the likes of a Mark IV and a Mark III, I found that a lot more difficult to use. There was a bit of a lag in the shutter at the time when I noticed. That for me has been a massive difference, that I've noticed that the actual shutter itself, there's no lag in it. So that's something that certainly changed. I will honestly say the video specs for me have been such a big thing. Now, I didn't need to use video as much on the R at the time, but I do believe that the specs you can get from the likes of the video on the R5 are just much more advanced, you know, and they've naturally progressed. And then in terms of stills, you won't be disappointed with the stills quality from an R, certainly not. But if you're someone who needs high-end commercial stills to blow up, obviously having the likes of the megapixels on the R5 is going to help with that.
Also, the EOS R is slightly different design to the R5. The R5 and the R6, which was asked about previously, is a lot more in tune with a 5D or 6D camera than an EOS R as well, which some people like, some people don't. It does come down to personal choice, but it's something to just bear in mind.
I did notice that, even the side, like that does feel very much like coming from a Mark III, Mark IV, whereas the R to me felt, now I have smaller hands, so some people wouldn't mind it, but if you're someone who, you know, maybe they don't like the feel of the mirrorless cameras, you know, so someone wants a bigger, chunkier camera, this, especially this with the grip, it feels like you're holding a DSLR that you would have been used to.
Thank you for your question, Noel. I hope that answers that. Now on to a question from Keith Kennedy, a familiar face and name to us all here in the store. Hi Keith, how are you? So we have, hey Joe, mentioned starting out from Instagram to moving into working directly as a photographer. Can you tell us what's the best way to drive Instagram page with your work? So I think what Keith is looking for here is, like, you know, we talked about your photography and Instagram as your hobby, but like on a more commercial side, you're getting jobs based upon probably work you would have had to show from Instagram before you had a proper portfolio.
So what I'd say to anyone, and this is probably one of the things that comes up again and again in terms of social media, you know, interaction from your page to your client, like how do you translate what you have on a social media account into actually paid work? And a lot of the time what people don't see is they might land on your Instagram page. Like people see this initially and go, okay, well this person has X amount of followers and this is the kind of work that they do. But in terms of reaching out to clients, you can show them an Instagram page, but you must have some substance behind that. So what I would always do is you can lead in with an introduction, or if someone expresses an interest in my social media page, I'm then reaching out to them and sending them pitch decks and portfolios, work that I'm not sharing online. And this is something that people probably don't know a lot of. I do a lot of commercial interior design work, you know, a lot of architectural work for clients that I'm pitching to clients behind the scenes, or even the video stuff that I don't show off. I have condensed portfolios, you know, that I'm sending out to clients directly, you know, even printed off pages of work that they can see. So you don't want Instagram or even a website to just be your landing pages, because you can only show so much and people will only scroll down so far. So I'd say to anyone looking to, how can they pitch their work from their social media to actually paid jobs, is look at what you want to shoot. Like, so if I want to shoot more outdoor work, it's how can I condense my personal work and my client work into a pitch deck portfolio that's going to attract those type of clients. So I've spent probably the last 2 years really trying to figure out the clients that I want to go after, the brands that I want to work for, and how I can get my work on their desk without having to just give them my Instagram page, because people will only look through so many photos. There's so much work on social media. It's very hard to stand out. So I'd say to anyone is spend the time actually getting to know the clients off social media.
Okay. Thanks. I hope that answers your question, Keith.
So. And please feel free, to ask me or send me any DMs or emails, and I'd be happy to elaborate to anyone in terms of giving them a hand in terms of time or ideas to reach clients.
I know Keith has actually done some work with MojoCon, and Keith's very much into the mobile journalism, mobile photography style of thing, which is where Instagram is obviously where it comes in there. So as I say, like Keith, very active on that side of things. So possibly you guys might be talking to each other about it, and you can help each other out. A technical question for you here now from Frank McGowan. So I know you don't like the technical questions too much there, Joe. So, but it's not too bad. What aperture and ISO is on the photo of the cone shot into the sun? And again, we did talk about this just when we actually looked at that photo. It is a photographer's nightmare shooting directly into the sun.
Yes.
So do you remember the settings that were there?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I know it won't be far off. So in terms of aperture, it definitely was.
Joe, the thing is, whatever answer you give us, we won't know whether it's right or wrong. So you can just give us a shutter speed, aperture, and ISO.
I do know because I'm certainly someone as well that I want to make sure you're getting as close as possible. That was certainly very wide open. So I'm going to say it was at least 2.8 or 3.2. ISO, I was trying to keep it as low as possible. So I'd say maybe 200 or 300. And shutter speed probably 1/200. I'm thinking, I can send on the exact details to you, but definitely I knew I didn't have much room to play around with because any settings I was changing were just blowing out the shot. So yeah, probably in around the 3.2.
Okay, that's great, thank you. I hope that answers your question there, Frank. One last question, not a question, more of a statement. Hi Daddy, tell Joe we say hello from Sean and Rory. So Sean and Rory, thanks for that, sending that in there. Joe, if you want to say hello.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you again.
So,
thank you for watching.
That brings us to the end of the questions and answers there. Just before we wrap up and finish up the stream here, is there any questions there that maybe you feel weren't asked that you thought somebody might ask, or do you want to just add anything in before we finish up there?
Yeah, I got asked one or two on Instagram DMs. Apologies if I can't answer them all, but I will get back to you personally. One thing was how did a relationship like this come about with yourselves and Canon? Like how does someone get into that, or how did I go from, again, not having a photographer background to making commercial work with yourselves? And that's something I just need to preface with everyone is coming in and meeting yourselves, going to the events that you've ran, and yourself and the team at Canon have been instrumental in allowing me to learn about the equipment, to try out the equipment. And I'd say that to anyone who's come in and chat to yourselves in here and say, well, can I test out the equipment, or even to go to the events that you and Canon have ran and get the gear in your hands, because that to me has given me the opportunity to try out this gear that I couldn't have just bought. I didn't have the opportunity to come out and buy this just to try it. So for anyone asking that is, come in and talk to the team. When restrictions are eased and when you can come back in, have a chat with yourselves.
And that's I'm just going to refer to that, like while the restrictions are there, unfortunately we can't do them. And I did mention at the start of the video, we spent money, we invested money in revamping our store. We pride ourselves very much so on those type of events, running them for manufacturers or brands, or even just a general day. It could be an in-store day, it could be an event. We did some out of the store events, some outdoor events. We did one on Hothead where you nearly killed me at the side of a cliff. We did a horse racing one out in Ace Racecourse. They're very accommodating, which is fantastic.
They've been instrumental to me of just getting to know yourselves, getting to know the team, and having the opportunity to use the gear. So when that's all, hopefully we can all get back to that at some stage. And
it is important to just say to people here, just before we finish, that although we cannot do those outdoor events at the moment, we are trying our best to come up with ideas for things that will replace those. So we are doing Zoom webinars on Saturday mornings, one time a month at the moment, with Eamon O'Daly, an outdoor studio there. They are replacing our photo walks. We are also trying to have some other activity on our social media channels or via Zoom in order to just keep in contact with people that would have normally come into us on those events. And that's where the dream child of this Facebook Live came, and we've managed to get through the first one, and I'm hoping that maybe we might get a few more of them in over the course of these restrictions, where we can actually talk to people, we can interact with people, we can have a bit of a questions and answers on an interesting subject or an interesting guest with people. I think our interesting guest was a good start today, so thank you very much for that, Joe.
And I'd say the same to anyone. If in the meantime, if you have any questions, reach out to me on Instagram or send me an email, and if I can help you with any gear-related questions, client-related questions, or just give you advice or the opportunity to use some of these when we can, please let me know. Like yourselves in here, it's just being able to educate people or help them out when they're starting off, because I know I was answered a lot of questions at the beginning, and it really did help me.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you very much for that, Joe. Thank you for all of it. It's been really enjoyable. I'm not too sure how long we've actually been on here now, but it's flown by. and we've managed to get through it all. We've all stayed fit and healthy through the course of the duration. There was a bit of a worry as regards to what was going on behind the cameras, but we got there in the end. Again, just to reiterate to people, this stream has been run fully by ourselves. All of the camera work, all of the equipment we have used. We will be putting some photos up later on of the equipment setup here in the store. You'll see what the setup was like. You'll see the cabling. You'll see we used the equipment that we used. You'll see the setup that we were there. Please contact us. Please email us. Please phone us. Please go onto our website, birminghamcameras.ie, and contact us through the contact us part of the website. As regards to if you want any information regarding this, it doesn't have to be as elaborate a setup as this, but live streaming is becoming more and more a part of our daily lives with the restrictions the way they are. People are working from home, they have a home office, people are looking to reach out with their clients like this. So if we can help you in any way, we will be very happy to do so. So we've come to the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching us. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for sending in your questions. And most importantly, thank you to Joe for coming in to us and being the first guest. We do hope to have more of these coming your way. If you have any ideas or want to see a particular subject or a particular guest, please send them in to us privately and we'll see what we can do on that. All that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching. We are signing off now, so thank you very much and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.